from a galaxy far, far away.
And a bookshelf straight out of the 90s.
From Thrawn to Dantooine.
And everything in between. This is Legends Look Back.
It is Thursday night. Unless, of course, you're listening to this or watching it in the future, in which case, how's my receding hairline? Is it kind of maintaining homeostasis, or is it still on its way back? And also, is my beard filling in any better? Please let me know in the comments. Thursday night, we are going to do some Legends Look Back, and every now and then on the dark cesspool of the internet that is twitter.com, you stumble across something that blows your mind, and you're like, this right here is why I waste so much time on Twitter, is because every now and then there's something that blows your mind and makes your day, so much so that you're still talking about it weeks later. I think I stumbled across this particular video that we're about to air here on the show and discuss a couple of weeks ago, and it's one of those things where I have not been able to stop thinking about it since. It has totally changed the way that I think about how I shelf and particularly unshelf my hardback books. So we're going to play this little video that was from a Twitter account that I follow. It's very niche, making fun of like seminarians and church people for like pastors, called Lloyd Legalist. Anyway, I think it's from his TikTok. It's one of these things that it ends up in your Twitter feed and you watch it and you see it and then you talk about it. Anyway, we're going to talk about it right now. Look at this particular video. And does this totally change the way that you think about how you get your hardbacks off the shelf? Freddie, I've been dying to show this thing to you, man. The idea is you try to pull a hardback off the shelf and you do it the wrong way. I'm going to grab the most beautiful Star Wars book ever printed, the hardback of Darth Bane, Rule of Two. Here we go. You try to take this off the shelf from the corner. You grab this top little section. That's a good way to tear your books. These little suckers are a little flimsy. That little, like 1 millimeter strip of fabric that is always the first thing to be torn on a hardback. He says, here's what you do. You actually grab from the back of the book, slide it out and tilt it toward you. Freddie, does this totally change? Do you just like want to go over to your shelves now and pull all your hardbacks off?
Yeah, I usually just get the top of my bookshelf and I shake it to see what book comes down.
That's a really great way to do it.
That's how we pick our Legends Look Back episodes. Just kidding, we don't do that.
We have a very meticulous process.
But yeah, it makes sense. But what happens when your book is just too big? You got to put your pinkies in on the side and just kind of wiggle it in, and then use it as like pincers or what?
Two hands to get the Knights of the Old Republic omnibus off the shelf.
I don't know why there's not like an app or some sort of service that can just provide you with like index cards that are like made of metal that you can just pry a book out. I don't know. You think there'd be something who would come up with a mechanical way to do that?
Oh, like how many times are you grabbing the same book off the shelf where it would actually damage it?
Oh, well.
Yeah.
With as many times as I've had to take like Dark Empire off the shelf in order to tell people about it when they come visit my house. You do a bookshelf tour and you're like, this one's my favorite. Or you reference it every single week on your podcast for 2 years. Honestly, like the edges, the corners on my Bane trilogy, they're all a little bit worn. I'm discovering right now as I kind of feel them up while we podcast live on the air here. What I'm discovering is I don't have enough shelf clearance to get my hand to the top of the book on this particular shelf. It's just big enough for a hardcover.
What Jared hasn't told you is that when he goes to his church and he's giving his sermons, he's actually using Rule of Two. He's memorized the Bible. That's what he's doing right now. So he's actually reading Rule of Two. He's got it in front of him all the time.
I've never quite done that. I will admit that like in a grad class that gets a little boring, I've been known to write articles for Utini, but that's only if like I've already mastered the material. You know what I mean? Or if it's like, if I don't type something, I'll fall asleep. Or like if that student that's talking that just loves to hear themselves talk. Yeah. Rick is nodding along. You know what I'm talking about. The person who just needs to repeat what the professor said, even though we already all got it. That's when I'm like, Utini time.
That was me. Sorry.
I don't remember you being that way, Rick.
Oh, I'm always
It's been
the
10
guy
years.
who has so many questions and is like, but wait, professor, you didn't give us homework. I was that kind of guy just because I would rather know and have time than him to be like, where's your homework? And so like, I was that guy who, I wasn't trying to be like a teacher's pet, but just like all about over communicating and all that. So yeah, I was definitely the obnoxious kid.
It turns out that your over communicating makes for a really good producer because you catch all the details. So that has worked out to your favor. And hopefully it works out to yours as well as we start this episode of Legends Look Back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Legends Look Back, proudly part of the Utini Podcast Network. It's a Star Wars books podcast for people whose neckties are wider than a city street, where we celebrate our rich EU history as well as dive into lesser known Star Wars classics. I'm your host, Jared Mays, and I'm joined tonight back from the back to tank by Freddie C.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys? I have to say, the announcement that we had yesterday, if you or not yesterday, last week, Emily, I am so thrilled to hear that, and choosing us as the platform to tell the world is fantastic. So, I'm back from the back to tank, and the whole time I just kept thinking, man, I cannot wait to get back to the show. So here we are.
Oh man, that was a seriously all-time classic Utini podcast moment when Emily busted that announcement on us, and we did not see it coming. And if you go back, and I've had to rewatch this thing several times, like show it to people or try to pull clips for socials. If you look at the looks on mine and Rick's faces, like even after we get the right answer revealed, it takes about another minute for us to realize she just made a live pregnancy announcement on our Star Wars podcast.
That was awesome.
It took us a minute. I'm like typing in the chat a little bit. I'm thinking about the next question. And then I was like, when did you announce that? Oh, right now. Yeah. This moment.
That was the moment. I kept trying to bring it up, but sometimes it's hard to get a word in edgewise around here. So,
I have noticed that we each get the episodes are going longer, one, and I'm having to talk less since we've added a fourth person to the show. So that's good news for just about everybody, including myself. We are also welcomed tonight by Emily Daybeck. Emily and her little one, who you said was kicking before the show. You could feel them. It's exciting.
Yes. So I'm 16 weeks now, which is in the second of 3/3. There's a first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. So I'm in like the honeymoon phase where I'm no longer throwing up everything. And I can also start to feel baby kick, which is kind of fun because that way, they're alive. Because it's kind of a big question when they're this small. You don't know how well they're doing. So and it's just kind of funny because I haven't felt this in a long time. My daughter was born a few years ago. And so it's, just kind of weird now that it's happening again. I'm like, that was not anything that should be explained. Anyway, joys of parenting.
That was awesome.
But thank y'all so much for the warm, encouraging support. I did not really expect that. I guess I just thought we just kind of roll right past it. But everybody on the team, everybody in the chat, and you guys, of course, are just exceptionally supportive, and it is very heartwarming. Thank you.
You'll see how supportive we are based on your answer to this question. Are you open to obscure Legends names for your unborn child?
I'll say we have not picked any names, and I am open to different names. It depends on how obscure, and I would need some time to fully research these characters because I could just blindly walk into naming my child after
Jackson with 2 X's.
The biggest problem would be getting my husband to agree. That would be the biggest challenge, but I'm open to it. I mean, if you want to come up with some names, I'm happy to consider them.
She might have a few after tonight.
I feel like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. So what does he say? So you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
You know who doesn't have a baby in their stomach, unless it's a food baby, is my good friend and yours, Rick Grace. How are you, Rick?
Hey man, I'm good. And there might be a food baby. You never know. So I know that the numbers keep going up on the scale. And so, there's good days and bad, but I'm glad to be here. My day is better now that I am among friends.
Well, the only scales I want to see you climbing are the scales on your guitar over there in the background.
Yes. We should talk about that sometime. I've got a number of weird instruments around here. I have a melodeon, which is like an accordion, a trumpet just laying around, and I'm operating the show on a MIDI keyboard that has like drum pads to it. That's how I switch our cameras. So I'm having lots of fun with the music world. Not that I'm very good musically. I just like playing with music, you know?
We need like a behind the scenes video of how you're running the show on this MIDI keyboard because I'm intrigued.
That's pretty cool.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, tonight we've got a fun show in store for you. I can't wait to get into it. The basic idea is, hey, we did the Ladies of Legends last year. Just a couple weeks ago, we did a crossover event with the Cosmic Force and the Living Force about the women of Star Wars. We on Legends Look Back particularly talked about the women behind the scenes of Legends that helped the expanded universe come into existence on the behind the scenes side. But, we didn't want to leave the guys stranded out there on an island. So tonight we are talking about the machoist of macho men in Star Wars. We'll be poking a little bit of fun, but also celebrating what is to love about these characters. A bit of an introduction for those who might not know that some of these particular characters. And at the end, we'll have a battle royale. We'll see who could win in a fight, and we'll talk about it. But first, Thraken's Thrift Store. Anybody have anything fun to show off tonight? Any new recent acquisitions in your collection? Freddie, you got something?
I do. So I don't remember when I ordered this. Jared, I know you ordered it as well, and it finally came in today. It feels like it's been 2 years. So I've got it right here in front of me. Can you see what that says right there?
No way.
You ready? Boom.
There it is. He's got if you're an audio listener, the limited run edition of Republic Commando for the Nintendo Switch.
For the Nintendo Switch, exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
did you
so
get
it finally
like the
came
deluxe kit with all the gear and goodies?
No, I didn't need that. I just needed the game, especially the game on Switch. So pretty excited to have this because I think, is this the first time that it exists for Switch? I'm not sure.
I think it came out a few months ago for Switch, and Limited Run just took their time getting it to you.
Yeah, that's right.
I've never played it, so I'm excited about that. I do, however, now have a Boss Funko Pop that says it glows in the dark. I always forget to check, and I should probably take it out of the box if I want to see that. But like, he's looking good in the box. Anyway, but also just recently ordered the Boss Black series. Say that 5 times fast. So I did check on my order status this week, Freddie, and it said, we'll let you know when it's shipped.
Nice.
Which I took as like, good enough. Good enough. I've got something that, it's big, so I'm going to have to grab it. Anybody else have anything in the meantime?
Sure, I got something. Which actually mine is for you, Jared.
Fun.
It's
like
actually
Christmas.
It's not for you. That's all right. I misspoke. Don't expect anything from me.
Well, Freddie got me something one time and then decided to keep it because he liked it so much.
That's fair. This is inspired by you, but it's nothing new. It's just been on my shelf for so long that it feels new. And that is this beauty right here.
Oh, man.
And
Gorgeous.
yeah. And since you talked about that being your favorite story, I was like, it's been on my shelf for so long. I've heard so many great things. So I started cracking it open. I also have it on Kindle, but man, the colors just pop on page so much better. Of course, the colors are kind of weird, but
tell our audio listeners what it is.
So yeah, that's this is the paperback of the Dark Empire. I think it's all of the volumes. Yeah, it's the collection. So the complete story arc and all that. And
Nice.
It's a beautiful cover.
I've never seen that cover.
It's got dark. I'd never seen it either. It's Dark Luke.
Yeah.
In front of this
The vacuum
massive
cleaner.
World Devastator.
Yeah, the World Devastator.
Yeah. So
That's what it
like,
does, Emily. The World Devastator.
It
that thing,
vacuums.
it vacuums up all the
worlds?
planet's resources, and then the Empire can turn it into lasers. So,
Sounds
like, if
about
there's
right.
Can
if they-
turn the resources into lasers.
correct, right? If it sucks up an X-wing, it just like trash compactors that X-wing into lasers, and then blows up the planet with those resources. Isn't that right, Freddie? It's about right.
Yeah. It basically just scoops up anything, everything under it, people, whatever, and it uses those raw materials to like create whatever the factory is, whether it's ships or anything really.
Thanks for the
I'm
spoiler
so
alert,
confused
guys.
how that works.
That's not a spoiler. There's way
I know,
bigger
I know.
spoilers,
I've
such
heard
as the
about
one
it.
I gave last
Yeah,
week.
I
That
know.
Palpatine tries to suck up the soul of Leia's unborn children. That's a big one.
I've heard so many things about the story that it's probably not going to be that original. So the reason this is probably different looking is because it's actually a Great Britain print.
Oh, nice.
It's a great British edition.
I'm sorry, it's been a long day. It's at the price of it's got, it's in pounds, and so
nice.
and it was published, printed in Great Britain.
Boy,
yeah.
What I like about that, Rick, first of all, I love seeing people holding Dark Empire. Just makes me happy. Second of all, I like that it's like mustard yellow, which was the color of my 7th grade football uniforms.
Nice.
We were the Fighting Chicks, the Chickasha Fighting Chicks, because that's a mascot. You could see us coming a mile away in those yellow uniforms.
Fighting chicks.
That's right. The cool thing was,
Interesting.
like, we wore them at school on Friday, before the games. And if you spilled your lunch on there, didn't matter. It was already mustard yellow.
Nice.
Well, let me know what you think, Rick. I'm excited to hear your review.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Emily, Thrack and Thrift Store, you got anything?
Nothing this week, but my daughter is all about that massive book haul I got a couple weeks back. She, like, every single chance she gets to come into the study, she like pulls them all out and like moves them places. At one point I fell asleep on the couch and she pulled them all into the living room and started like piling them on me.
That actually is one of the more
like move them all.
That's one of the more frustrating things about toddlers and Star Wars books is the good amount of order. And they take them off your shelves. At one point, I think when I first joined the team at UTini, I showed Corey my bookshelves, and all of my books were like chest high or higher, and below there were just like some toys.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, not gonna lie, that's why my shelves are lined with toys, just so the kids will go for those rather than the books.
That's smart, Rick. That is smart. I did find my daughter doing church for my Watto cup topper the other day, my cup toppers. She was like leading them in prayers and singing, like playing church. And she like had Watto and young Anakin and Sebulba and
That's
Yoda.
great.
And they
That's
were
awesome.
like,
That's
they
so
were getting their
precious.
spirituality. That's for sure.
Oh,
Now,
man.
the thing that I have to
That
show
was a
off,
proud moment.
I'm about to say the 4 words that are the scariest words I could possibly hear on Legends Look Back, other than the stream is dying. That's a scary one.
Other than I tripped over the ladder.
Yeah, well, that wasn't 4 words. The words I'm about to say are scary for me to hear, but if I'm saying them, it's okay. And that's the thing I have to show. Have I already forgotten what the 4 words are? Dang it. What is it? It's not Star Wars, but it's 5 words. I got a White Ranger helmet for Halloween.
No way.
And
Dude.
it is, we're going as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. My family is this year for Halloween. And my daughter, 6-year-old, wants to be the White Ranger. And, wasn't going to bicker over the fact the White Ranger isn't female. Just like, hey, pick a color. It's fine. We'll put you in a costume. Nobody will care. I'm going as a Red Ranger. My 3-year-old
Good choice.
is the Pink Ranger. My wife is the Black Ranger. And when my daughter's White Ranger helmet came in, I could not have imagined like what good quality this would be. I have already spent like a good 3 hours in this thing, with many more to come. And against my will, mostly, which is like my daughter, she's like, we got to play. We got to do this thing and do it right. Put your costume on. So
3
somehow Palpatine
hours.
has returned. Those were the 4 words that Wes was recommending.
Man, that's glorious. I told you though, I met Jason David Frank when I was a kid, and I took like a karate lesson from him because I wanted to be in the Power Rangers. Yeah, I have an autograph with him. I actually have I used to have a poster in my bedroom that was him like shirtless. It was really weird now in hindsight that like this 8-year-old kid had a picture of a shirtless dude with long hair, but whatever. And yeah, like when I met him, it was the coolest thing ever. But I have a picture of me smiling, and I'm like so distracted. It's like, it's just it's great. But
Rick, I have a request. Find this picture and put it in the Legends Look Back Discord channel, please.
We'll do.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Yeah, people have shown us some personal photos of them meeting like celebrities such as Star Wars authors from time to time, but this is a good one. I don't know if there's any fan favorite character, an actor who has represented a character in a fictional universe who has been as dedicated to their fan base as Jason David Frank. Say what you will about Power Rangers. And please let me know what you have to say, as long as it's nice, because I will talk your ear off about it. Very dedicated to his fan base. I'm a little jealous, Rick. So we're moving on. In tonight's segment of Legends Lookout, we're not going to rehash the list of what's coming out soon. There's stuff. It's going to be great. Some things have been delayed, so hold on to that. Don't get too angsty or anxious about it. There's a huge delay in the publishing cycle. We've got the Star Wars Insider Fiction Collection Volume 2, Legends Epic Collection, some Legends Omnibuy. There's a Boba Fett hardcover coming out, or soft cover, but it's not a Marvel Epic Collection. It's a little confusing. Anyway, there's some things coming out. They're mostly getting delayed a month or two at a time. So, be patient. There's plenty of Legends books to read in the meantime. There is one bit of breaking Legends news that we have to talk about on tonight's show, however. And Freddie, I'm going to let you take it. There's a species that just made its canon debut. What is it?
Yeah, I'm always a big fan of when Legends characters become canon. I mean, we're seeing it all the time. It's great. There's a lot of good content in Legends. You might as well pick from it. But guess who's back? Zeltrons. That's right, guys. Zeltrons are back in canon.
So now
What
you
are
can
Zeltrons?
you can get overly excited in a not at all creepy way if you are reading canon or Legends comics. Yeah, what are Zeltrons? How would you describe them, Freddie? Because I'm not sure I've got an unproblematic way to do so.
This is a tough one.
Should I Google it?
You know what? I'm just gonna read a line
from the Wook.
from the Wook, so that it's this is not for me. This is from the
I
Wook.
should not have asked that question.
Let's see. Here we go, guys. Zeltron culture was highly influenced by sexuality and the pursuit of pleasure in general.
Sounds about right.
There we go.
I
Yeah,
really
most
should
of
not have
them
asked that.
they have their skin color is red, ranging from light pink to deep red. Most of them were considered highly attractive by human, near human, or even some not so human standards, humanoid standards. They appear in a lot of very notorious Legends comics all throughout, from the old school Marvel run all the way up through the Zeltron that plays a prominent role in the Legacy run, hangs out with Cade Skywalker, and people are always like, listen, if you're a Skywalker, why are you hanging out with Zeltrons? And he's like, don't judge her just because she's a Zeltron. And also, she's hot. So there's a lot. There's a lot of
Lando,
Zeltrons.
Okay.
big fan of Zeltrons.
So in particular, this happened today in Ghost of Vader's Castle number 3, or so the story goes, because none of us have read it yet. But we had to make sure that we had something tonight for Legends Look Back. But before this gets any more awkward, we're moving on. As we kick off the show tonight, yeah, I just saw Emily's face maybe like a Zeltron.
I was not
flushed
prepared for that. We're supposed
for
to be
shades of
about
pink
tough
and red.
guys.
Yeah, I know.
Let's keep moving.
Hold on. One more thing.
All right, here we go, Rick.
I want to know what Disney executive was like, man, there's so many great things in Legends that we should bring into canon. You know what? Let's get those kinky aliens back. Let's bring them back.
Zeltrons, am I right?
First of all,
That's
I'm
a really good point.
let's
I didn't even
read.
think about somebody said that was okay.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, that's a good idea.
All right.
Wow.
We're
They gotta
renaming
do it
tonight's-
tastefully, I guess.
Tonight's episode is now called In Defense of Zeltrons, or a Zeltron apology. And here's what it is. They are a seminal Legends species, and they're easy to draw because they're just scantily clad women. They look like humanoids, and all you have to do is color them pink. So it's like you don't have to
That's it.
you don't have to invent a new species. You just put them in skimpy clothing and color them pink.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so Kevin Scott, who has reintroduced them in Ghost of Vader's Castle number 3, has loved paying homage to the old school Marvel comics,
I see.
reintroducing Hoojips and
Oh.
Jackson and probably
Yeah.
other things. And so
That's true.
this is good homage back to the old school Marvel series.
I see. I feel better.
And canon has now the potential to recharacterize them. Just because you use the appearance doesn't mean that you have
That's
to go
true.
with the shtick, right? Yeah,
That's true.
I stand by it. You know what else I stand by? This merch ad. We got some cool stuff that you can buy. And I've got a birthday coming up. Rebecca's grandmother just sent me $25. And so once that check cashes, I might be getting a new hoodie. We'll see. Let's find out. Let's see what we got, Rick.
You know what's better than the merch ad? Is this really cool ad about the shows we have on YouTube?
doing the wrong ad, notwithstanding, not Rick's fault, it's mine. We change them from time to time. However, there's still some cool merch you can buy. Tonight I'm drinking out of my Legends Look Back. Nope. A Utini mug that's like, kind of teal colors. Thought it was Legends Look Back this whole time. Apparently I've never really looked at it. Just been drinking the stuff inside. We got a lot of great stuff over there. Always more to come. But tonight's episode, to be honest, is inspired in many ways by the crossover event we did earlier this summer. We did Shadows of the Empire, starring none other than, well, the guy who drives a knockoff Millennium Falcon called the Outrider, which he would be offended by that description, by the way, but who could probably, his ego could probably bench press a Star Destroyer. Don't you think, Freddie?
Man, I'd go as far as to say he could probably bench press a whole planet with his ego.
Absolutely. Right. And so I realized, like, honestly, there's a type here. This happens a lot in Legends, where you've got this character whose vibrato just leaps off the page, and you as the reader are like, on the one hand, fascinated, and on the other hand, annoyed. But you know that the author has a story arc, like they're wanting to do something with this, and that vibrato is often a ruse, right? They're hiding something. There's more under the surface than that. And so one of the things I wanted to do in one of these days in Legends Look Back is I wanted for us to compare some of these very similar characters to see what they have in common, to see just how often this trope reappears in Legends, and to introduce maybe some people to some of these characters if they've never read them. There's a couple in particular I'm very excited to share tonight. I want to hear people's picks. We saw some good picks happening in the Discord, has some good picks happening on Twitter earlier today. Let us know, who do you think is the toughest of tough guys in Legends? And so tonight we're going to do a rundown on who all of these characters are. We're going to discuss them, debate them, compare them to one another in, well, like an epic arm wrestling competition.
Yes.
That's like irrelevant and outdated, right? Because it's, and fictional. I can't be more excited. And we'll have a virtual arm wrestling competition. I'm feeling like Freddie could probably win it, but like Emily's got the strength of an unborn baby. So
Yeah.
There's
the
that.
rule of two, right?
there's like a
One
whole
to
thing
embody
where,
the power, one to crave it. That's fitting.
like Rocket Man. You ever seen the 90s comedy Rocket Man? Okay, crickets. Well, we'll have a watch
No.
party and we'll all watch Rocket Man.
Just you.
Mothers have like, there's there's a legend that mothers have supernatural, superheroic strength in order to save their babies when they're in trouble. Sounds right.
So you're gonna put my baby in danger?
No,
Or,
that's
like-
all right. All right, we're good digging myself out of this hole.
Let's talk some more about some men of legends.
And as we do, here's
Let's
the
do
thing.
it.
We're going to poke a little bit of fun tonight. Disclaimer. We're poking some fun. We're having some fun with this. Here's the point. We're doing it because we love it. It's like you wouldn't want anybody to talk trash about your sister. I don't have a sister, but like theoretically, you don't want anybody to talk trash about your sister because, they're your sister. However, you can joke about your sister because you love her. Are you with me? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's
So
like it's
we're-
like
Yeah,
but
that
your
makes
friends
sense.
that are buddies, right? Like there's like, hey, how are you doing, friend? And then there's the ones that's gonna call you, the curse word, the name, and that's like, yeah, we've known each other since birth. Like
That's
those
right.
the ones. The closer you are to someone, the more entitled you are to make fun of them.
So the criteria for tonight is we're going to poke a little fun. So hang in there, have some thick skin. We're saying all this because we love these characters. We're also going to celebrate them unironically at the same time. So got to be paying attention to know what's ironic and what's not. We are going to be a little bit informative to introduce some of these characters. If you're not totally familiar with who they are, we'll tell you where you can discover more about their stories. And as we do so, do want to give the criteria that there will be characters that don't make the cut. Doesn't mean their egos are any less impressive. Okay. The point is hey, we can't go all night here. In particular, we're not necessarily talking about the quintessential pilots of Legends, people like Corran Horn, for example. In particular, we've tried to highlight characters that at least are the protagonist of a trilogy of something. Got to have 3 comic series, or 3 video games, 3 novels, or longer. That's kind of been the criteria we're going with. It's a loose criteria, but that's the criteria. Sound good? Freddie, lead us off with your favorite Star Wars character.
Yeah, my favorite Star Wars character. So we've got Boba Fett right off the bat, and we've talked about him countless times on this show. You can see there's a skateboard back there with him on it. Got the Lego. Got to put that together. He first appeared in 1978's Star Wars Holiday Special, where he rode a dinosaur.
Well,
So-
technically it's a mythosaur, but like it
Mythosaur.
counts, right?
Yeah, exactly. It counts. It's a dinosaur. You know, at least when I was a
Listen-
kid, it was a dinosaur. Yeah, I mean, there's a few more things about him. He's definitely the silent and brooding type. I guess every one of these characters has to have a power of some sort, right? Whether it's an ace shot or a pilot, that one of the best pilots ever known. But Boba Fett, we've got his jetpack.
Yeah.
We've got his rocket launcher, his various assorts of other weapons that he's got all over his entire body, and of
Yeah,
course,
there's a lot that didn't make the cut here.
yeah, lightsaber proof Mandalorian armor, which is a big deal in itself. So that's our boy Boba Fett.
Yeah. Emily, did you have a question a second ago? I saw you pitching in with something.
No, you just blew my mind. So I didn't realize that in The Mandalorian, when that guy was saying that your ancestors rode the legendary mythosaur, that's Boba Fett. That's what they're talking about.
Yes.
Yes,
In a
you
sense.
know?
In a sense, yeah. So they
Okay.
Mandalorians, they tamed the mythosaurs on their planet, and they used them as like war beasts. So in a sense, yeah, they like throughout Mandalore history, like the mythosaur is their war pet. Now, if you look up mythosaur, it's
Gotcha.
basically a dinosaur. So yeah, in a sense, yes, like we see Boba Fett ride one in the Star Wars special, holiday special.
But that's the
so-
first time he rides one.
Yeah, that's the first time we ever see
Hmm.
a mythosaur.
Like,
'Cause that-
That was
so
like the
so Boba Fett's
origin
introduced
moment, and then they, like,
before
wrote
The
about
Empire
it.
Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Which is I think something that people often forget about is it was his first
Yeah.
movie debut, but he had this goofy cartoonish introduction. Rick, do we have the picture of Boba Fett on the mythosaur from the holiday special
Would
pulled
we
up?
consider
No,
that Legends? I'd like to
That's a
consider
good
it
question.
Legends.
Well,
it
we've
depends
got-
on your definition of legends. Is if your definition of legends is there it is. So the faithful Wookiee. There's now this. Okay, we don't actually have the dinosaur like very visible in this, but there is this new golden book that's coming out soon that is an adaptation of this particular animated short that's in the holiday special. So the issue here is this dinosaur, this goofy, wonky, like brontosaurus that he's riding in the holiday special, is that actually the same mythosaur that they like talk about in The Mandalorian? Do you think?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's it's just one of those things that was the holiday special was just silly in itself, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember if I've seen any mythosaur drawings, but I couldn't imagine that it was as wonky and goofy as they say. Your family rode the mythosaur. Merp.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really friendly and pink.
Yeah. Well,
There's a good question here, which is, how is the Mandalorian rewriting this kind of history?
Mm.
And they can make the mythosaur to be as awesome as they want. They can do whatever they want. It's kind of open ended at this point, but there is a wealth of Mandalorian history in Legends, and in particular, we've got some guides about it on Utini.com. If you're wanting to get into those obscure bits of detail, we've got a guide that is specifically what you should read if you like the show The Mandalorian, and then a similar but slightly different guide, what to read if you like Mandalorians in general. There's two different guides. I wrote them both. They don't say the same thing. They don't say the same thing. I put a lot of work into these things during grad class last year, right? A couple years ago, maybe. And so there's a lot to dive into. So Boba Fett would be like an obvious choice. Rick, you got something?
I've got a question about this. So I think I was working on a TikTok. That's a good startup for a story, right? And I was looking through the Han Solo trilogy, and I just flipped over to like pretty much the middle of the book. It's like chapter 8 of the Hutt Gambit, and right off the bat, it talks about this guy in Mandalorian armor who's a bounty hunter whose name is Jaster Muriel.
Oh no, this is a huge rabbit hole.
So I'm curious about that. Can you tell me something? Can you give me the brief information? How does this overlap with Boba Fett?
This is one of the biggest retcons in Legends history.
Hmm.
You want to take a stab at it, Freddie?
Yeah. So, well, there's several retcons, right? We've got Jaster Muriel, but then we've got, I believe, is it Jodo Cast?
Jodo Cast. Yeah, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So Jaster Muriel was actually in the comic books, I believe, and he was Jaster Muriel. He was the man. I'm getting all my Mandalorians mixed up
He's
right
in
now.
Jango Fett Open Seasons.
Yeah, it was in Open Seasons. You're gonna have to take this one. I'm going through memory lane. Was he the first? Was he Jango Fett's friend or mentor? I'm having a hard time.
Sounds about
remembering.
right. Yeah, so we had to read Jango Fett Open Seasons if we want more on that.
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
thinking of was the other Mandalorian whose name
Jodocast.
starts with the letter J.
Yeah,
Right.
you're thinking of Jodo
Jodo
Cast.
Cast. I
So
am.
There's a whole retcon on that. This is so interesting, Jared. You can elaborate. I'll give a little bit of history on who Jodo Cast is. So Jodo Cast is like I think he was working with the Alliance or something, and he ended up taking Boba Fett's armor and basically painting it exactly the same and passing himself off as Boba Fett. Now, this is where it kind of gets a little interesting because there's a whole situation where Boba Fett sets up like a trap on, I think it's like Nal Hutta or something like that, to try to capture who this fake Boba Fett is. But there's like some behind the scenes too. Jared, you have any info on that?
The behind the scenes that I remember, and we'll have to do a bigger Boba Fett deep dive when we read the Boba Fett Blood Ties omnibus that's coming out later this year, is that, you know, basically when it came time to do the new Jedi Order, they revealed that there was this huge twist that Boba Fett was actually leading the Mandalorians against the Yuuzhan Vong in Boba Fett, A Practical Man, the novella that came out. Boba Fett hadn't been in the EU for a few years, and then they were like, look, Boba Fett's a hero now, and it kind of moved back into the spotlight there. And so basically they retconned that everything up until that point had been an imposter, an impersonator, pretending to be Boba Fett. Not so unlike what we got in The Mandalorian, but Jodo Cast was way cooler. At one point, he kidnaps the Solo children. It's a whole thing. And then there's a showdown between Boba Fett and Jodo Cast, which is cool.
Yeah. It's like
There's a lot.
almost like the timeline didn't work out and they're like, well, okay, now we got to figure out who this is going to be. And so they just inserted some random character as a Boba Fett clone, imposter. It was like, what the heck?
Now,
I guess
we
you can do that.
We did an episode, Freddie. It's the one where we did it in the middle of the day in the summertime when my air conditioning was broken. You could just see my pits getting sweatier and sweatier as the episode went on. You remember that one? What episode number was that?
I don't remember. I remember that happening. I can't remember when that was though.
We did a Boba Fett Legends special. And so a lot of this information is there. I have since flushed it from my brain, apparently, as all good things do. And we got a comment from Skooma Joe over here that says, Emily, I promise there's good stuff in Legends, LOL. The Boba Fett Jodo Cast traitor imposter arc is one of the coolest twists in Legends. I think it's awesome.
I mean, that's why I wanted to learn more about Legends, because there are no rules. It's like the Wild West. Like anything can happen. Anyone can be anyone. Like people can die and then come back to life, and they can turn out to be an imposter the entire time. Like, what?
There's imposters
Crazy.
all over the place, and there's twists. I'm not going to spoil it for Rick because we've been spoiling every story since. So
there are rules in Legends. They're just making them up as they go. There's a difference.
I like it. It's fun. I like it when rules get kind of bent. So
now we got a couple more things we've added here. A trivia on Boba Fett before we move on. I will say on the point of machismo, us talking about the tough guys of Legends. What makes Boba Fett tough? He kind of lets his armor do the talking, especially the original Boba Fett, like old school Legends Boba Fett. Boba Fett's doing a lot more talking these days than like the Bounty Hunters comics and the Mandalorian. Originally, he was letting his stance do the talking more so than the dialogue. We've got this idea here that Freddie, did you add this extra trivia here? You couldn't help yourself, could you?
I couldn't help myself. I saw Boba Fett and I was like, all right, let's do some behind the scenes.
What you got?
Yeah, so it's funny that you say this whole thing about Boba Fett and his armor doing the talking, because when I'm forgetting his name, Jeremy.
Renner
Jeremy
just passed away.
Yeah, he just passed away. When
Not
he
Renner.
was putting
I'm
on
so close. Bullock.
Bullock, yeah, Jeremy Bullock.
Renner's a
When,
Marvel guy.
Oh,
when he
yes.
put on his Boba Fett armor, first of all, it fit like a glove. Like it was almost made for him without it really being made for him. And he was just standing on set, and the amount of people that were just like looking at him, it was like you had a whole bunch of stormtroopers on one side, you had Darth Vader on the other side, like the actual actors, and then Boba Fett, and then everyone just staring at this guy. And he, Jeremy Bullock was just like, I'm just standing here not doing anything, yet everyone's just looking at me. And it goes to show that it was just the nature of the armor itself was already, speaking for itself, which is why everyone liked it. But going back to speaking for themselves, Man with No Name is where George Lucas got the idea of who Boba Fett would be. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but it's a Clint Eastwood,
Like the Western.
it's a Clint Eastwood spaghetti Western. I think it was by Sergio Leone, one of those old Italian spaghetti Westerns. And if you look at Boba Fett's cape, it's actually similar to the sarape that Clint Eastwood's wearing in Fistful of Dollars. So a lot of ideas just came from that those Westerns for him. I mean, you can hear it in the clinking too when he walks. It sounds
Is
like
that why he
got
has
the,
spurs? He's based
yeah,
off
the
a Western
spurs.
character.
Yep, exactly.
Wow, that's cool.
That was what tipped people off in season 1 of The Mandalorian. That Boba
Yeah.
Fett would be back because there were spurs. They were all like, "There's spurs," and I was
Yeah.
like, anybody can have spurs. It's Star Wars. There's no rules about footwear, but they were right. Yeah, it was spurs. It was the whole thing. You were right, Freddie. The character who inspired it all is next up on the list. Emily, would you like to take this next one for us?
Dash Rendar.
You gotta say
is
it with
the,
a Boston accent sometimes.
Oh yeah, like I must said in the chat. Dash Rendar. And it's a terrible accent, but I hope you'll forgive me. He is the scoundrel captain of the Outrider. He was created for the Shadows of the Empire storytelling multimedia initiative as a fill-in for Han Solo. I totally get that. We actually read a short story about him in the Star Wars Insider Fiction
Mhm.
That's right.
Collection, Volume 1.
Yeah.
He had one, I think he was like really hungover most of the time, wasn't he? And then
Sounds about right.
yeah. So I got a bit of a glimpse. This is the one I have had a little exposure to. Do y'all want to fill me in on some of the details?
Absolutely. Why don't you take a stab at it, Freddie?
Yeah,
I'm having
so-
trouble with some back end stuff on my
Yeah, no
on my
worries.
end here.
Yeah, he's got his his powers. I guess you would call his sassy sidekick droid. The what did I call him last time? The Swiss Army droid.
Oh, Lebo.
Lebo.
Yeah.
Lebo. Okay.
Yeah, and of course he was the protagonist of that movie or of that movie. Look at me getting into the video game is like a movie to me.
It's
Yeah,
become
look
a
at that.
movie in your brain, Freddie.
Look at that. Look at that Hildebrand image of him just looking
It's
so
so good.
machismo. And in terms of if you had to fight ego to ego with him and Han Solo, honestly, it'd probably end up in some kind of nuclear explosion.
Well, that happens in a book. I've been reading this book a lot. Shadow Games. There's like a whole chapter, and it happens multiple times in the book. They're just like, let's do that same chapter and reword it a little bit, where Han and Dash have like an ego wrestling match
Yeah.
where they just like trade insults and roast each other, and then gamble a little bit, drink a little bit, and then like race their starships.
Yeah.
It's
so good.
it's really good, top notch. And what's great is the author is like in on the joke. The Dash Rendar is a knockoff Han Solo, but he is the protagonist of the book. He's got his own. I mean, he was the star of that multimedia experience, but then got his own book in like 2011. It's pretty late in the Legends timeline. Totally worth the read. That was like the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh, I need some escapism. And my friend was like, I just read it and I liked it. And I was like, you had me at Legends. Yeah, you did. I think that single-handedly his shoulder pads inspired this event, this episode.
I mean,
And
I'm
that
not
is
sure
like-
how he gets around with those shoulder pads.
Well, the shoulder pads were a crutch for the fact that they were having trouble animating his shoulders in the 3D video game. Because it was for the N64. They were trying to do 3D video games for the first time. He looked too clunky, so the shoulder pads were like hiding the fact that he needed to be able to put his arm up here to shoot. And so But on what's great is on the Wook, there's a whole paragraph explaining what the shoulder pads do.
Mhm.
It's like the brilliance of Star Wars fandom. Like, oh, these
So
things
then what
exist.
do they do?
Let's
Do
explain.
they
them.
do anything?
Yes, Emily. They provide extra protection from blaster bolts.
On your
From
shoulders.
his deltoids.
Yeah, that's right. Uh-huh. They're so big that they just absorb blaster bolts.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think I don't know if I've seen too many people cosplay as Dash Renda, but I'm definitely gonna give it a shot.
Oh my goodness. What else have we not said about him in terms of like his kit, his gear? One of the things we're going to compare as we go along here is like what do they bring to the table? What could they do to beat you in a fight? Here's what he's got, right? You know, he's got his awesome ship, so he could fly away from you quickly, but not as quickly as the Millennium Falcon and the Outrider. He's motivated by his angst over the death of his brother at the hands of Prince Shisor, so got some serious male angst there. He has some pretty hefty gear, such as a flamethrower, a pulse phase blaster that shoots purple balls like IG-88's. It's exactly the same thing. You just pick up. It's basically you find IG-88's blaster when you need it in the game. Man, those purple balls caused me a lot of stress this summer. And he also has a jetpack sometime that like is not the easiest thing to pilot. So like another good point somebody made earlier in the chat with these video game characters. We talk about the toughest of the tough guys in Legends. How many countless times have they died?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. When I was watching you in your live play, or was it Andrew? One of you guys, it was just I couldn't count anymore.
At least in my house, Dash Rendar died at least 1,000 times this summer. We'll put it that way.
Speaking of
1,000
that,
times.
Jared, did you ever get around to actually beating Shadows of the Empire?
No. I am still on the same level that I was on. Now, I haven't played in a couple months, but I played it for like another good 2 months after
Nice.
the event because like I don't quit things.
Yeah,
I have an obsessive personality.
That's more than me.
Yeah.
So no disrespect.
I'm still on the like canyon planet of Gaul, which is a very long, very massive planet midway through the game. But then the final boss in that level is Boba Fett. And like, if I can make it to him, which is like 1 out of every 20 times that I play the level, it doesn't take long for Boba Fett to wreck me, believe it or not. You know, in terms of who would win in a fight, at least for me, Boba Fett beats Dash Rendar every time. Yeah, thanks for rubbing that one in, Rick.
Sorry about that.
You get the honors now of talking about our next character.
All right, that's fitting. So next up we have Kyle Katarn.
Oof.
Good dude. So he is a rebel soldier turned Jedi. And he was the protagonist of the Dark Forces series of video games. Quite a lot of accomplishments to his name. He was one of the dudes who helped steal the Death Star plans. The guy is pretty much just your good old go-to Legends Chuck Norris. So
Yeah, that's the joke.
you always just want to leave it there, right? So some of his powers or abilities, I guess, and there's some slight spoilers coming, is he's got a girlfriend, Jan Ors, who does most of the heavy lifting. And then there's some force sensitivity that comes up, including some traditionally known dark side abilities like Force Grip and Force Lightning.
They just look good in a video game. They just do.
I mean, I get it. Let's see. Oh, and in the New Jedi Order's Best Swordsman, he earned the title of Blade Master.
That's right.
So yeah, and doesn't he have a role? It's probably coming up later, but I remember playing. What was it, Jedi Academy? And he's like your first guy you see or meet or something.
Right. That's like an extension of the Dark Forces
Okay.
series. Right.
Now,
And
my
that's-
question is,
that's-
do you think who do you think has handled the most weapons, Kyle Katarn or Boba Fett?
Ooh.
Because there's a plethora.
this is crazy, isn't it, Freddie? Why don't you tell us about the weapons?
There's so many different type of weapons that he's used. Like if you look at everybody's like Wikipedia, right? There's a list of associated weapons, but Kyle Katarn, oh my goodness, I'm not even sure where to start.
And it's because he's from like shooter video games.
Exactly. Let's see, a mortar gun, a Packard mortar gun, a rail detonator gun, a concussion rifle, a heavy repeater, E11 blaster rifle, DXR6 disruptor rifle, FC1 fletchet launcher, PLX 2M portable missile launcher, and destructive electromagnetic pulse 2 ion carbine, and a lightsaber, to mention a couple.
Yeah,
Because he didn't have enough.
Yeah.
you gotta love that.
He needed a melee weapon.
Right?
Flamethrower wasn't on the list though.
That
Kyle
is true.
Dash Rendar had a flamethrower.
Did.
Mm.
That's right. That's right.
Like the
It doesn't
shotgun
last
of the
long.
space.
Yeah, you get like 10 seconds with that flamethrower. It's pitiful. I have a soft spot for Kyle Katarn. I've talked about this a lot on the show. I really love the Dark Forces audio drama. So those books have been they were adapted in the late 90s into the Dark Forces trilogy audio drama. The audiobook narrator, I should play a clip, maybe on social. I'll find it and share it. He's got this great accent. He's like, Kyle Katarn has infiltrated the rebel base. I can't do it. It's awesome. I can't, it's not getting there. But I've listened to that sucker maybe 10 times. It's amazing. So I know his story intimately. I've heard that the actual like physical book isn't as good as the audio drama. I've never
Right.
actually sat down to read them. Rick, you just got them though, right?
I have them, yeah. And my favorite line ever is "Got them, but haven't read them."
Yeah, right.
And so, yeah, still in that category. But I'm curious, what else besides that trilogy does he appear in?
Man, he's in a lot of material, I feel like.
Well, he's in the go ahead, Freddie.
Well, there's obviously there's the New Jedi Order, which I feel like he was in it quite frequently.
He does become a pretty prominent member of the Jedi Council
Yeah.
in the majority of post Return of the Jedi Legends.
Yeah, and he actually has a lot of back and forth, Kyle Katarn, with like the dark side of the Force. He's just so intense. I feel like it's hard for him to really decide if he wants to be the Jedi or if he wants to stay by himself, right? Like isolate himself. He's just so intense. But he's in Fate of the Jedi, Legacy of the Force, I believe. He's in Legacy of the Force, right?
I think so. All of that kind of melds together for me. I know the major plot beats,
Yeah.
but we'll do a big reread one of these days. Corey
Pretty sure Dark
notoriously
Nest.
loves the Legacy series, so we'll do that with him when we get around to it. After he gets like a cushy desk job. Just kidding. He'll always be busy. The basic idea is like, Luke is the Grand Master, but sometimes he's busy. So you need some other hard-hitting Jedi Masters to, manage the temple. And sometimes that's Kyle Katarn.
Mhm.
And so he does become a quite prominent member, but he kind of comes from left field. He's like a video game character who
Yeah.
backdoors his way into the Jedi Council,
Yeah.
as opposed to being a prominent book character
Yeah.
like Kip Duron, for example.
Mhm.
So Kip Duron didn't make the list though. So Kyle Katarn wins out in that regard.
So like, what's his MO? Like it says rebel soldier turned Jedi. And then he has all these weapons. On paper, he's kind of looking like a knockoff Luke a little bit. Like, what does he do? Is he like the
Yeah.
guy that they send in like when everything else has failed? Or is he
You're-
like the guy,
So,
like, what does he
so
do?
interesting. Emily, you said it right on the nose. He seems like Luke, right? Because I want to say some of the background is that they were trying to put Luke into these in this video game, but they would just
Okay.
paint themselves in a corner, so they just created another character.
Okay.
So
A
that
more
was
flexible one that can use all the weapons.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
fact
but
check
it's
you on
funny that you
Freddie.
saw
I don't
that.
know.
I like that.
That sounds right, but I don't know if it's right.
I mean,
say
that
the-
would be a much more fun player to like play in the video games. You're less bound by like morals and
Mhm.
like light side and dark side. I mean, there's all options. You don't have to choose lightsaber or guns. You can just have both,
I want 'em
or
all.
like light side and dark side. Just use both.
That was a good
That sounds
observation.
fun.
And he's
Yeah.
not
I'd probably
as
say
he's
that.
not as morally gray as he sounds on paper here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to squeeze it into like 2 or 3 sentences.
Sure.
I would say the big difference is he starts off as a soldier. So he's
Mhm.
like
Okay.
one of the shining cadets at the Imperial Academy.
Yeah.
And he goes out into the field as a stormtrooper to wreak havoc, but then has like a moral compromise, not so unlike Finn in The Force Awakens, but cooler because it was Legends. And then like discovers that his father was assassinated by a dark Jedi or something like that. And so then he has to face off with this dark Jedi who has a grudge against his father. His father was like secretly a rebel. So it's got a different story trajectory than Luke,
Yeah.
though some
Okay.
similar beats along the way. Definitely like less whiny and more muscular.
Totally.
He's got one shoulder pad though, whereas Dash Rendar has two.
Ah. No, you gotta go with two, man. I mean, if you're gonna do shoulder pads, you gotta have a matching set.
At least Kyle had a dad present. Just saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there is like a whole dark side thing. He falls to the dark side at one point. His story intertwines with the Darth Bane trilogy a little bit, actually.
Really?
It predates Bane, if I am correct.
Yeah, sure.
Going to the Valley of, like the place on Rusan where all the Sith spirits are trapped. And so it introduces that idea that then the Bane trilogy expands. So we will talk about it some when we get to Bane pretty soon.
Yeah.
Kyle Katarn did it first. That's right. He beat Bane to the punch. So that's a credit. Now, one of the things we've talked about is like with Legends characters, with Star Wars characters in general, there's this fine line between a name needing to be really exotic versus being, you know, kind of run of the mill. You've got names like Luke, good old fashioned New Testament name, right? One syllable. You've got other names like Jeruus Sabaoth. Rate Kyle Katarn 1 to 10 on like a Star Wars naming convention scale. Freddie.
Well, okay, my scale is going to be a little high because first of all, his last name Katarn. I'm not sure if you know what a Katarn is, but a Katarn is a giant like dragon lizard on Kashyyyk.
I did not.
Yeah,
No,
so
that's new.
and there's a whole thing. I know this because of Star Wars Galaxies, but there's a whole thing with with Katarn armor, which is like I want to say it was maybe a branch or something like that in the clone army or something. I can't remember. So his name is pretty intense, Katarn. But you know, Kyle. Hello, Kyle.
It's like every time I try to write the name Kylo Ren, and my phone autocorrects it to Kyle Ren or Kyle Ron, which is also something that happens.
Yeah. So I'd give him a solid 9 on the naming scale.
Because of, you know, the history of Katarn.
Yeah, exactly.
Emily, what's your scale? What's your rating?
I was gonna say something, I lost track. Kyle Katarn. I don't know. I didn't know the history. The dragon definitely levels up his name a bit in my book, but Kyle, it's like, when was his book? Like, when was he introduced? Like, what what decade? Because it sounds a lot like a 90s name to
It's
me.
90s, yeah. It's
Yep.
90s.
It's 90s. Okay. Then for the sake of that, I'm gonna give it an 8.
Rick, you had a judgment on Kyle Katarn?
So yeah, like you said, guys, Kyle, it's pretty vanilla 90s kid name, but you know, it is kind of a safe name if that would be one you'd want to consider. Good old Kyle or Kyla, you know, something. Okay, anyway.
And everyone can pronounce it. So that's
right.
That's a win.
That's right. And I'm pretty sure, so I've been playing I forget the actual, like the full title of the game, but the Star Wars Pod Racer game. It's been, you know, released on Switch.
Star Wars
And
Galaxies. Cool. Keep going.
yeah. And I'm pretty sure it's that game, but one of the Star Wars games has like a name generator. And I'm pretty sure Kyle Katarn was one of the random names that it just generated. And so ever since that, it's very Star Warsy to me. And I mean, obviously Star Wars, but like that alone, like Katarn, or I can't remember, maybe just Kyle even, was part of like this random generation. And so, yeah, I'd say it's pretty high, but to be a little lower than y'all, I'll give him a 7.5.
I'm not going to give him a number. What I will say, though, for the backstory on all this, is there's a High Republic character named Kevin. And that stirred up a lot of debate. I was like, no, Kevin's not good, but Kyle is fine.
Too many syllables.
All
You
right,
got the
Kyle is better than
alliteration.
Kevin. I
Ki-
can't. Yeah.
Kyle
Are we-
Katarn, it alliterates.
Are we going to talk about
That's true.
all these names?
No.
Okay, can I throw in something real quick then?
Yeah.
So I'll share this with you guys. So I go by Rick, but my real name is Garrick, Garrick.
That's kind of Star Warsy.
And no joke, because in Battlefront 2, the new one, Admiral Garrick Versio. And so I'm a Star Wars character, y'all. That blew my
Oh
mind.
my
I've never been
goodness.
more excited than I saw that. And I like flipped out because in 3rd grade, I started going by Rick because nobody could say it right. I was like Garrett or Jared or Derek. And so I was fed up. I'm like, call me Rick, I'm done. But hearing Star Wars made a character with my name, I was like, yeah, it was so cool.
That is cool.
Your people.
So I'm a Star Wars character, y'all. Even though
All right.
Nice.
I'm a redeemable bad guy. So
We got to clip that. That was good. A redeemable bad guy. There's this character in the Han Solo trilogy. Is it Gareth? Gareth Shrike?
Close.
Yeah, you're one syllable away.
Yep.
I tried.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know who else tried? Our next character for tonight, Kir Kanos. Kir Kanos, absolutely one of my favorite Legends characters. He's basically the Punisher of Star Wars. I read the Crimson Empire trilogy. I think it was earlier this year when there was that big Marvel sale. Could have been May the 4th. I'm not totally sure. He was originally one of Palpatine's Royal Guard. The story in Crimson Empire is set shortly after Return of the Jedi. He defected after Palpatine's death and went on a bloody rampage to eliminate pretenders who attempted to claim the Emperor's throne. Basically, you know, his shtick is that he was trained in hand-to-hand combat, not just hand-to-hand combat, but like hand-to-hand fight to the death combat.
Yeah.
The real deal. There's a lot of blood
He's a
on
gladiator.
on the tips of these blades. It's very gladiator-esque, Freddie. Yeah, absolutely. He wields this double-bladed pike. He's motivated by the sheer fury at the incompetent riffraff who comprise the post-Palpatine Empire. It is quite possibly the most violent Star Wars story ever written.
Jared,
And
one
there's
thing I
some-
want to bring up is ever since you read Crimson Empire, I feel like you have a very intense fascination with it, because ever since then you've talked about Kir Kanos and Karner Jax, and it's influenced me to start reading it, and I'm really getting into it as well. And you're right, it's so menacing.
good story. It's got some tropes of the time, like it's overly violent. The romance is a little bit like too quick, and he's too like idolized for being manly, which is what we're kind of joking at in this episode, because he's violent and stern and cold. But you learned that he has some good motives, even though he's defending Palpatine's honor, basically. But he cares about honor more than about Palpatine. And then eventually is kind of like persuaded along the way to re-examine his motives and what he's all about. We read a lot of books for Legends Look Back. We read a lot of Legends for this show, and I'm still reading some Legends outside of my spare time, just because I'm trying to get through it all. It's very rare, Freddie, that we come across a book that stuns me, that like floors me with how much I love it.
Yeah.
And that was what this was. It surprised me. It came out of left field. Like,
Really?
it was one of those things where like I could not put it down.
Yeah.
Like I'm staying up way past midnight to read this thing. Like I'm
I love
holding
those
my
books.
eyelids open to read it because I loved it so much.
It was good. Yeah, you could tell once Jared came back from that trip. I forget what it was. Yeah,
I was
you
a changed man.
Yeah.
Man.
Now, Freddie, you were holding up something there. What you got for us?
Yeah, it's so first of all, who is this? Right? You don't look at this. Who
Don't look
is
at the
this?
name. Well, that's
This
Kir
is-
Kanos.
it's
He's the
Kir Kanos,
protagonist
right?
of Crimson Empire.
Exactly. Well, is it though? Karner Jax.
Yeah, he's holding
What?
up the Black Series, the 50th anniversary misprint
Who's
edition.
that? Who's Karner Jax?
The villain of the series.
Huh.
Even which is interesting. They totally misprinted it. It's and Hasbro actually admitted that they messed up. So we have the Jared and I and a couple of other people out there have the misprint. We'll see how much this goes for on eBay one of these days.
I'm trying to keep my eyes peeled if they release the fixed edition, like the correct edition, because I'll probably buy it. Well, I don't totally know what I'm going to do about this with there being a misprint one. I don't need two of the exact same figure, but like I like that it's misprint because it becomes collectible and it's kind of goofy and silly, and Legends is goofy and silly and has all kinds of erroneous, issues throughout. But no, Karnor Jax is another one of these tough guys, but he's not a protagonist. He is the villain. He's one of the royal guards who, protected Palpatine, but then claims the throne. And then they have like a battle to the death kind of thing.
So how do you know that isn't Karnor Jax?
You could tell they're just different characters. Karner, I believe Kir Kanos has like the double bladed
Okay.
spear, right? And I don't
I see.
remember.
Okay.
Their armor is a different color
Yeah,
as well.
Karnor
So-
Jax has like black and red armor. He
Yeah.
he repaints his armor after Palpatine dies. He's
Yeah.
like, now that Dad's
Ah.
gone, I'm gonna I'm gonna change my clothes into something rebellious.
I have to say, Jared is downplaying it. When he found out that this was a misprint, he was absolutely livid.
I don't know if livid
That's
is the
not
right word.
you. You don't get irritated when people do stuff like that.
Why don't you move us on? Emily, you can take the next one.
Sure.
Poke fun at me here.
Ganner Rhysode, is that how you say that?
Sounds right.
Rhysode.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Okay. He is a strong-willed Jedi described to have worn flashy black and blue robes and have taken special care of his appearance, cultivating his natural good looks. He was the self-proclaimed brightest star of the new Jedi Order. I'm sensing some ego here. Does he have a big scar down his face, though?
Yeah, that's a given with
Interesting.
all these characters. They all do. Yeah,
They
that's
all have
part of
scars, and it's
that's
part of their machismo.
part
They
of the
look like
the trope.
Keanu Reeves.
They're all versions of
He
Keanu
does.
Reeves. Fantastic. He is featured heavily in the new Jedi Order series, specifically Dark Tide Duology, Star by Star, and Traitor. And apparently his powers are he has flashy clothes, because how exactly does that come into play?
It does.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So his clothing is somehow powerful. His scruffy beard, facial battle scar, telekinesis. That's cool. Jedi mind tricks. And alongside Corran Horn, he could use the Force to create a barrier, to create a body hugging force bubble around himself to keep the blowing sand off him.
It's real. It happens. I'm not making this stuff up.
He could get in his hair.
I mean, granted, if I
Yeah.
could use a force field to keep sand off of me, I probably would. So I kind of can't judge him for that.
If
It is
Anakin
but
had
he's-
figured that out, there would have
Yeah.
been no Darth Vader.
I know. Yeah. But instead,
But
it
so
had to be
he's
Corran.
with Corran Horn though. Like, wouldn't those? It seems like those personalities would conflict.
They
A bit,
do.
wouldn't they?
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
you're onto it. That's the point.
Okay.
They do. Good job.
That was good. Yeah. It's funny because their personalities are very much. I mean, they're Corran Horn. We all know how much Corey loves Corran Horn and how Corran Horn could come off. And then you put him with Ganner. It's just or Gunner, right? However you want to say it. It just doesn't matter.
That's not. That's not how I want to say it, Fred.
You know, I was going to say it Rhysode, so, you know, it's whatever.
But
I love
so-
it. I bet it would be like the most exotic pronunciation.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be
I
with
like
that
it.
kind of ego.
yeah, totally.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Well,
So
I'm
they go
interested to
on
see.
in Mike Stackpole wrote the Dark Tide Duology, so books 2 and 3 of the New Jedi Order. Basically, the first book gets everything kicked off, a massive catastrophe, this huge invasion by this foreign, alien invading species. But then at this point, we kind of get onto some missions. The Jedi will send out teams of 2, or like 2 Jedi and their apprentices. And so they send out 2 very capable, strong, Jedi with good track records, good reputations, Corran Horn and Ganner Rhysode. But Corran is, this cocky fighter pilot who's proven himself, and he's gone toe to toe with Luke Skywalker and Yasani Isard. Whereas Ganner is like a different generation of Jedi. So he's a generation younger, thinks he is hot stuff, but there's a character arc there. There's a character arc.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it. It is one of the greatest moments in all of
I would-
Legends.
I was gonna say it's difficult to not spoil this one, but I will just say that it is probably in the top 5 of memorable Legends moments. That's all I'm gonna say.
It is.
Top
And
5.
and the Corran Ganner relationship, frenemies.
Definitely frenemies. Yeah.
Their
A little
hostility
drama.
is delicious.
It's like
It
putting 2 Type
absolutely
A's
is.
in the room.
It is. Yeah,
I bet that would be fun to read.
surrounded
Or-
by serpents that can turn into battle staffs. with
Jared,
the
that
Yuuzhan
reminds me of Bible majors in our intro
Moses?
classes, our first semester, a whole bunch of, people trying to prove
That's right.
themselves. And yep. I see
Yes.
it. I see it.
That's right. People who think they are God's gift to the world,
Yeah.
here to learn that there's more to the universe than they realized. Absolutely. Freddie, you're our big Mandalorian fan. Why don't you take the next guy?
Yeah, so the next one we've got Cal Skirata. Honestly, one of my favorites on this list, as well as Boba Fett. Actually, this whole list is pretty awesome.
It is a
but-
lot of fun. It's been fun.
Yeah, it is. We've got Cal Skirata, he's a Mandalorian bounty hunter, friends with Jango Fett, and actually was recruited by Jango to train the clone troopers on Kamino, and raised a few actually for himself. Right, I believe he raised a few modified clones for himself.
Yeah, they were basically going to be discarded because they were defective, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And he took them in under his wing, and that's how the whole the whole the whole series begins. Yeah, he raises them as his own children.
And he's
That
a
makes
warrior.
his own little Bad Batch.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's up with
Bad
these
Batch,
like bounty
it's
hunters
derivative.
taking clone
Yeah.
children?
Yeah, there's a thing.
Huh.
Cal is very much a warrior. Like we're talking,
Okay.
like a lot of these other guys are they're all warriors in a sense, but like Cal himself, he's fought in many battles. Like he's an actual warrior.
Hmm.
So of course, when he the whole Bad Batch thing, it makes sense that he would. He was very. I want to say he was a bad father, or at least he considers himself a bad father to his actual child. So these clones were very much like his kids, and it's interesting to see how they take that into Bad Batch, right? And they have this whole thing with like super commando clones. So he actually, Cal came from the Republic Commando books, and we're talking about powers for a lot of the others. Well, his powers is he's got 2 squadrons of clone commandos on call at all times. So that's a pretty big deal.
That's right.
Okay. In Star Wars world, how big is this squadron? Do
Oh
we know
no,
off
this
the
is
top
a
of your head?
rabbit hole.
Sorry, we can answer this at a different time.
I
That's
don't
a
know the
Cav
answer
term
off the
too. My
top of
husband's
head.
military, and like I know how many people are in our squadrons, but I don't know what. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Was it
I'll
6?
The
Oh,
like
6.
Delta Squad and Omega Squad are 4, aren't they?
That's right. They are 4. They are 4.
But like
I
Rogue
believe they are 4.
Squadron is 12.
Yeah.
Right.
Rogue
And
Squadron is
Emily-
12.
Handfuls of people.
I'll say this much. Trevor did a deep dive on this on the Star Wars archives. I don't know what episode it was,
Oh.
but he did a deep dive on it for sure.
Okay. I'll have
I
to find
heard
the
it
episode.
and immediately forgot it.
And I feel
That's cool.
like,
A squadron in army terms is like thousands of people or like hundreds of people at least.
I mean, you could say
like,
that,
That's very
right?
different.
One
Yeah.
clone commando is probably like 100 guys.
Okay.
I feel like the vernacular is wrong. It's probably more equivalent to like a platoon. But they just
Yeah.
squadron sounds more Star Warsy, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like a way cooler term.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Rogue Squadron is 12. Delta Squadron and Omega Squad, they're 4.
Gotcha.
And like throughout the series, Scarada basically just recruits more people under his cause. So he's like a mother hen, like a bird that spreads its wings and just keeps getting more and more babies under him. It's really
Mhm.
endearing, honestly.
Aw.
He definitely wants to be a good father, but he was always out fighting that he just couldn't do it. And so when it comes to battle, like he was very good at taking care of these clone commandos. And on top of that, his tactical gear, I'm pretty sure his Mandalorian armor was gold, right?
That's what the books say. I mean,
Yeah.
like he's not in the comics. He's depicted in some official art, but not much. But it's described as gold in the books.
So he's a knight in shining armor, is what I'm getting from this guy. I'm sensing mad respect from
But
Jared
he's-
and Freddie.
But he's gruff. He's
He's very gruff.
abrasive.
Okay,
But he's fatherly to his children.
gotcha.
It's an interesting case study in masculinity, those books, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is. I remember asking this question to Meg when we did the roundtable was, can a female author have toxic masculinity? So that came up. That came up in the conversation. I don't remember the
Ooh.
answer, but that was a question I asked.
That's right. remember
He's
that.
got some more. He's got some more kit. A Verpine Shattergun is his thing. Basically, I just imagine him having a shotgun on his hip, just blasting, battle droids. Sometimes he borrows a lightsaber to get the job done. And we mentioned this an episode or 2 ago. He also has a hermaphroditic flying 6-legged stinky dog named Murd, who is the real MVP of that series. And I'm not making it up. It's true. It's real. And it's amazing. Next up, we've got Star Killer. Rick, take it away.
All right, give me 1 second. So Star Killer, I've actually heard of this one. Thank you. No,
That's
I'm
a win.
kidding. I've heard of the others, many of the others at least. So Star Killer was Darth Vader's secret apprentice. Let's see if I can get a picture up of him. Here we go. Yeah, secret apprentice tasked with eliminating the remaining Jedi who survived Order 66. Oh yeah, and he kind of pulled a Star Destroyer out of the sky using the Force, so that happened.
In BD.
Yeah, and he became, I guess, introduced in the Force Unleashed video games. So another character that started in a video game and then was novelized, and really just novelizations, I think, of the video game, unless I'm wrong. Powers include he wields his lightsabers in a backhanded grip, which is pretty cool. He uses Force Lightning. And in case you missed it, he pulled a Star Destroyer out of the sky.
So overpowered.
Seriously.
Delivery was so good on that, Rick.
Thank you.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for sure. Starkiller is not going to need to pull a Star Destroyer down on your head tonight. He would be so happy with your delivery on that particular line.
Is his first name Luke?
Now his name is a debate.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's contested. His name is contested. Do you know you guys ever heard the controversy on this?
I don't think so. I just was referencing, wasn't Skywalker originally Starkiller?
Yes.
Right? Okay. And
So
they
that's
just,
part of the lore.
gotcha. I don't know. What else you got?
So, right, this was a name that was original to George Lucas. Starkiller was a name that he wanted for one of his protagonists. If you read the Star Wars, like one of the original drafts on Star Wars for a long time, the protagonist was named Anakin Starkiller. Eventually, Starkiller sounded too violent. They kept shelving it, kept benching it, but it's something George kept wanting to use. Skywalker eventually came in instead. You ended up having Star Destroyers as ships. I mean, this is where they pay homage to that. In 2008, the game came out. It's like, oh, it's way far behind us. We don't need it anymore. So Starkiller came out, played by the character Sam Witwer, who, now that I've spent so much time like listening to interviews with Sam Witwer, watching him on screen at conventions and things, it is odd to see him in the video game because it looks exactly like him.
Yeah,
They
it's
did
him. It's
nothing
his
to
voice.
change his appearance.
Yep.
It's just Sam Witwer.
Honestly, I didn't even notice that until we prepared for this, because I knew the voice actor, I knew what he looked like and everything, and I knew the character from the game, and I was like, oh man, that's the same guy.
It is the same guy.
Wait a second. Do I spy a shoulder pad?
Oh, he does. I didn't even notice that. I'm so excited.
Is this a shoulder
God.
pad episode?
I think it might be. That is a very large shoulder pad. That might be bigger. It might be the biggest one yet.
He's not holding his lightsabers the right way in this picture either.
Yeah, he's
So-
not.
No, he's not. Now, here's the thing. This is actually from The Force Unleashed 2, I believe. I could be wrong. Somebody said in the chat, isn't his name Galen Merrick? And the answer is kind of, not really. And yes, it's never said in the first game, or the '1 New York Times best-selling novel. One of the only Star Wars books. There's fewer than 10 that have ever been '1 bestsellers. This is one of them. 2008, the '1 New York Times bestseller, The Force Unleashed novelization by Sean Williams. He was never named that. Starkiller is indisputably a cooler name than Galen Merrick. Sam Witwer notoriously hates the name Galen Merrick.
He does.
It was never run by him. It was never approved by him, even though it's his likeness. And the issue is the character in The Force Unleashed 2 actually Starkiller? That's the one who's named Galen Merrick in book 2, it being in the sequel. And there's a lot of debate. It gets a little spoilery. I don't want to say a whole lot about it. Is it actually Starkiller? Sam Witwer, the actor who portrays him, prefers using the name Starkiller, which was original to the first game, instead of Galen Merrick.
He looks like a star killer.
We're gonna add
That
this.
dude looks seriously unhinged.
We're gonna add this to the list of how do you want to start an argument?
Yeah. Hey, I will say Merrick rhymes with Garrick, so I'm a fan.
Oh,
Excellent. Yeah, definitely one of the cool. He really represents like this late 2000s tough guy. So we talked about the 90s tough guys with people like Kyle Katarn and Dash Rendar. The buzz cut and the angsty. This was a time in which we like wanted all of our movies to be dark and gritty. You remember that? We were like, you know what I want in a superhero movie? I don't want the bat nipples anymore. I don't want the campy Batman. I want a dark and gritty Batman. 2008 is when we got The Dark Knight, for example, the darkest and grittiest of superhero movies. And so the idea is like he is representative of that time period in which we needed our men to be angsty. Chad Michael Murray on One Tree Hill, he's just pure moodiness all the time. It's that era. It's that era. There's a few others, however, that didn't quite make the cut that we at least want to give a quick shout out to. Freddie, lead off our honorable mentions here for us.
Yeah, so we didn't have time to cover everybody, but we do want to talk about them. We've got Booster Tarek, who is the father of Mirax Tarek. He's a smuggler, scoundrel, captain of the errant venture. Was a prosthetic. He has a what is it? A prosthetic?
I misspelled it.
Yeah,
Prosthetic.
prosthetic cybernetic eye. I was like, he's prosthetic.
That's so cool.
And he's got a bright red Star Destroyer that is a casino.
Wow.
Yeah, and he
Earl
appears
Campbell there for sure.
in the X-Wing books. Let's see. There's a couple of other EU mentions. He's got. Let's see. I'm not sure what else there is for Booster. There's quite a bit.
He's an ex-con.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like Corran is
Not a fan.
suspicious of him because he used to be in prison.
If there's one thing Corran hates, it's smugglers.
That's true. That's true. But eventually comes to save the day for the rebellion a number of times. Now I've had a big question about the Star Destroyer. We talked about this in the After Dark segment last week. We did a bit of a voice chat with some folks after the show. We talked a little bit about the errant venture. Here's my big question. All right, in space, theoretically, you can't hear sound.
Oh.
In Star Wars, you can. Spaceships make cool sounds in space. In Star Wars, even though in real life, they don't. Light in space is coming from stars. However, space, pretty dark place. Would you be able to see the bright red Star Destroyer in space? Why go through all the effort of painting it bright red? Would anybody even see that it's painted red?
I mean, if you had lights surrounding this thing, like the casino that it is, it would reflect the frequency of the red back to whoever is seeing it only as fast as light can travel.
Yeah. So it's that's something I spent my week thinking about. I had plenty of other things to do, but that's what I was thinking about instead.
The practicality of the red spaceship versus the giant planet vacuum that we talked about earlier. You're worried about the spaceship being able to be visibly seen as red.
Hey, it's important.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm with Freddie. I feel like if you painted it red, it's probably so other people could see it. Why would you do it if
I think
no
he's
one
got
could
lights
see it?
everywhere. He's making himself known. It's a casino. It smells like smoke when you pass by it.
Yeah, man.
It's like a Waffle House in 1993.
Man.
Here's my point, and it's this: his ego is what is glowing from a mile away.
Oh,
It's like
mhm.
he painted it red as a way to say, I'm painting it red because I want to paint it red. It's like a middle-aged man who drives a candy apple red Corvette, right? It's
Oh.
like a midlife crisis kind of thing. Instead of buying a Corvette, he stole a Star Destroyer.
I mean,
All right.
as one does.
Yeah.
in
First
space.
order of business, paint it
When
red.
starships are available, you steal them and you paint them red.
Got a few more here in the honorable mention. So glad that we got a second to talk about Booster. One of the best Legends characters, hands down, indisputably across the board. On Twitter, we had a good comment from our buddy Aaron Mose. Just left the chat a few minutes ago. Said he's going to catch the rest of the show on replay. What's up? Hey, you missed your thing. You said the thing, and now it's getting on the show. He gave his list of his favorite tough guys of Legends, and it matches up with ours halfway. Boba Fett, Dirge, Kel Tainer from the Wraith Squadron series, and sorry we left out pilots for the most part. Bror Jace, another pilot from the X-Wing books. Kyle Katarn made the list. Ganner Rhyso did as well. So we were halfway there. 3 out of his 6. And then finally he says, also, I think Luke Skywalker is pretty tough throughout Legends. He gets injured a lot.
It's so true.
Keeps coming back. I would say Luke is very tender-hearted in Legends and indestructible. He's very superheroic. Whereas in canon, he's fragile in a different way. But we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that. Freddie, there's one final honorable mention I wanted to throw your way to close this out.
Yeah, there's definitely one that we could all agree would love to participate in this multi-armed arm wrestling match that we got going on, right? We've got Jackson. Jackson would absolutely just kill to be in this thing.
Especially if we're talking about that new Black series, right? Look how many muscles are on this
Oh.
bad boy. You got him
Yeah,
over
he's
there,
got
Freddie.
tons.
He's so incredibly ripped. Like he's so much more muscular than he should be. There's no way I can get this thing without glare. He's kind of got like the dad bod, like the thick torso, but he's clearly done some time with a pull-up bar, at least twice a week. He's so jacked. Yeah, Jacked Jackson is also making our list of the toughest of tough guys in Legends. Now, finally, as we close out the show, I want to ask two final questions here to think about. Like, hey, we've surveyed these 7 or 8 characters. We've talked about some characters we know, some more than others. First and foremost, who is a character that you're dying to know more about? Freddie, you go first. I know you know
Yeah.
most of them.
I think I haven't read too much about Kirkanos. I know we've been talking about Crimson Empire, but I really need to start digging into that further and just finish that series up, because the way you've reacted with it just sounds like something I need to get through.
I think that's my answer too. I just want to reread it because I liked it so much. Emily.
I'm gonna go with the classic Boba Fett because I am newer to Legends and I don't know as much, obviously, as this conversation has displayed. I would like to know more. My brothers always used to love Boba Fett. I never got it because I was like, you mean that guy that just stands in the corner? You like him? Like, what does he even do? Do we know? Like, we didn't know anything about it. So, about him as a character, and but apparently they knew something and everybody else seems to know. So I'd like to read a little more about Boba Fett. And we're all in a Mandalorian craze, obviously. So I feel like it's a good time.
Yeah. And I'm going to say, Legends Boba Fett could take canon Boba Fett
I'm
any
going to
day.
have to see.
Any day. Right.
Cool.
And we got a good
I need
pick
a
here in the
list.
chat from our buddy Wes. His recommendation, as it always is Sifo Dyas. That's one that he wishes had made the list, one he'd like to learn more about. Sure. I don't know that I'd call him like a tough guy, but certainly a guy.
He's a
Rick,
guy.
who's your pick?
Well, I was gonna go with Kirkanos too, but I'll say Starkiller because I haven't finished the game. So, Jared, I threw some shade at you earlier for not finishing the game, but I'm the same dude. So I started those games a long time ago, and they're probably like a quarter of the way done. So I need to finish and read the novelizations. I didn't realize they were bestsellers, so I really want to go back and see how he's portrayed in or a bestseller rather. So I'm gonna go with Starkiller.
I think those books are massively underrated by the fan community at large. How can a #1 New York Times bestseller be underrated?
Yeah,
But the fan reception of the books has not been
right.
stellar. But I loved reading them because I had never played the games before I read the books. I had seen the buzz about them, but I prioritize the books. In case you don't know, really like them. All right, and then finally, who would win in a battle royale? Who would win in a fight between all of these bad boys we've talked about tonight? Based off the information that you've got, we talked about their powers. We talked about, what they bring to the table, some of their bigger wins. We didn't especially talk about their losses because we want to spoil things. Some of them die, some of them don't. Who would win a fight? Let's go reverse order. Freddie, you're last. Reverse order.
Okay,
Rick,
good.
Rick, you're first.
Oh, so me, I'm first.
Yeah.
Big smile. I was like, ha. No. All right. I will go with Boba Fett because he's a survivor. He goes head to head with Jedi. Not always well, but he's willing to. And so Boba Fett. He
does get out of the Sarlacc pit.
Twice. So different universes. He still gets out.
He's a practical man.
Emily.
I think I'm gonna go with Starkiller because he pulled a Star Destroyer out of the sky. And I feel like he has a really short temper because most of the people, it seems, have kind of honorable intentions. Like, I don't think that they would actually engage with others. There are a couple like really big egos. Like I think Dash Rendar and who is that like vain Jedi? Ganner Rysode?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I feel like those two wouldn't really win because I don't know. I have lots of reasons, but I feel like Starkiller would be probably the most likely to take down everyone else just from sheer just like dark side
No, and the legend there, Sam Witwer actually did a playthrough of the Force Unleashed games with David Collins, who was sound designer and the voice of Proxy, and then Hayden Blackman, the game developer, the lead, the director on the game, joined for some of those conversations as well. A few years ago, they did like a 3-part playthrough of the games, and they talked about all the behind the scenes details. I'll try to find the links for that and post it in the Discord. There they talked about the infamous pulling the Star Destroyer out of the sky move. And they said, basically, you have to look at these games as legendary in the sense of this would be like a story told about Vader's secret apprentice. And do you trust the story of the time he pulled the Star Destroyer out of the sky? Did he really do it? It doesn't matter. That's what people say he did. That's the way they look at it. And they were like the insiders that made the game. However, that was going to be my answer too. I think that's true. You know, if you can pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky, you're definitely way overpowered. That's part of the fun of Legends is the force wielding characters became kind of super powered and super heroic, overpowered in that way. I will say for tonight, since you took my answer, that I'll say Kier Kanos, because he is unbelievably powerful in hand-to-hand combat. So if it is just, no lightsabers, no Star Destroyers, no force abilities, if we're just going to go toe-to-toe in a fight, I think he would win. And you got to read the comic for yourself to find out. Well, tonight has been a lot of fun. The next roundtable, if you are looking to hang out with us and join us for our upcoming shows and you want to get a head start on the reading coming up soon, we've got a good graphic here. The October roundtable will be X-Wing Rogue Squadron. We're going to specifically be talking about the audiobook. Yes, we did cover it way back in the day, 2 years ago on Legends Look Back episode 4, but we've come a long way since then. We got Rick and Emily. We want to hear their takes on it. We won't ask the same questions, and we will specifically be talking about that round table, the new audiobook there as well. Coming up in November, we're going to do Darth Bane, Path of Destruction, first book in that trilogy. We will cover the whole trilogy over the next few months. Taking a break for the December roundtable, which is we're going to cover the soon to be released, hopefully, fingers crossed, if the publishing delays don't kill us, the Boba Fett Blood Ties Omnibus. So everybody pick up your copies, use those Utini affiliate links. You know what to do. And in the meantime, that does it for this week. Thanks for joining us on Legends Look Back. Thanks, of course, to our incredible patrons for your amazing support. We love making the show and are glad you are along for the ride. A special thank you to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, Carl Sander, Indar on our Jedi High Council, Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Sally and Chris Eilerson, Freddie C, and our newest patron, Earl Q, on our Alliance High Command. Thank you for your amazing support. Want your thoughts around the show? You can email us at legendslookback@utini.com. You can send us a message in the Legends Look Back Discord channel. Leave a comment on this episode on YouTube or find us on Twitter. We're at Legends Look Back, or I'm at Jared Q Mace. Freddie?
At Wake Up Freddy.
Rick?
At Rick_Grace.
And Emily.
Darth Daybeck.
Absolutely. If you're looking to buy some of these books and want to help support the show, you can look up a book on Utini. Click the Amazon Thrift Books. Book something else is a way to buy them from independent bookstores. There's a lot of different links these days. Lots of ways to send us a few cents to help us keep the lights on. Also, if you've read the book, after you've done the thing, you bought the book, you read the book, you want to say some stuff about the book, you can leave us a review right there on the book profile and let us know what you think. Remember, everybody, keep the Utini fan code and be a force for positivity in the fandom. May the force be with you.
This is a Utini broadcast.